I'll start by introducing myself while you're bringing up the slides. My name is Kerry Regan. I'm based at the Data Science Campus in the UK, the Office for National Statistics. I'm a program manager with international capability remit. I will wait for my slides. I have a few other hats. I also work, I'm a member of the UN task team on training, competencies and capacity development, and I'm also a member of the program management unit for the UN Regional Hub for Africa. And what we're going to talk about today is how we're trying to strengthen the global statistical system through the use of the UN Global Platform and the UN regional hubs and global hubs, which are emerging. Okay, slide 2. I see you have PDF, so we're just going to scroll down. Okay, yeah, next slide. So overview, what we're going to do very quickly, because we don't have much time, is look at the applications of the UN Global Platform. We're then going to look at the UN regional and global hubs, and we're going to focus in on a use case from the UN regional hub for Africa. Okay, next slide, please. So let's start with the UN Global Platform, and everybody's question is, well, what is it? It's a cloud service ecosystem. It was developed originally by the ONS, but it's now hosted by the UN Statistics Division in New York. It provides a collaborative environment for anybody to access. So it's available to all NSOs across borders. There are some new data sources on the platform, and it offers innovative methods for official statistics. It was originally created to help fill some data gaps and help measure the Sustainable Development Goals with the 2030 agenda. It's under the governance of the UN Committee of Experts on Big Data and Data Science for Official Statistics, which has all of the task teams. All of the UN task teams are all under this governance structure. Okay, next slide, please. So the aims of this global platform are to support or enable innovation, statistical modernization in national statistical offices. It offers a platform for collaboration and knowledge exchange, as we said previously, across borders. So it's available for everybody to access. It does all of this by just providing free access, easy free access for all NSOs. It gives a cloud-based platform, so for those NSOs that don't have the infrastructure to work with big data, the infrastructure is available via the UN Global Platform. It facilitates collaboration across NSOs. It gives us space to experiment, that sandpit environment, very important when you're experimenting with big data. But it also holds use cases that have all, from NSOs that have already used and applied big data. Also shares some of the code and some of the methodologies that have been applied by NSOs. It also hosts a UN Big Data Learning Management System, which is a portal for online learning. Next slide, please. So what's on the platform at the moment? I won't go into too much detail here, but there are two very large sets of data currently there for people to go in and play with. The first one is AIS data, that's shipping data. It's huge. It's a full global data set of ships, 200,000 vessels, their position, their speed, where their destination, etc. And the data is stemming from December 2018 and is updated in 15-minute intervals. It's huge, but it's there on the platform. And some countries are already using it. The UK uses it, the ONS uses it to get a proxy fast indicator for GDP. There's also send to agri deployment data. This is global Earth observation satellite imagery data. It's in 10 by 10 meter resolution, updated every 10 days. And there's also a data pipeline for processing the satellite data and in situ crop survey data, with examples of where it's been applied and case studies and methodologies, etc. So, I mean, we're looking to populate this more. We'd love there to be more big data sources on the global platform. We'd love there to be more case studies, more code, more methods for people to use. And it's there to share. It's there to provide for others to pick up and use. The task teams I talked about, which are all under that governance of the committee of experts, they're all populating this as best they can. And the data science campus also just trying to populate with examples that it has from the UK. Next slide, please. Oh, and I should say, if anyone does have any examples they'd like to share, please do think about sharing them on the platform. There's also this Learning Hub, a portal for online training, which is being populated over time. So all of the task teams that are looking at different sources of big data are developing training that will eventually sit on here. So there are some courses there already. There's a couple on the screen, but this is going to grow over the next couple of years. And this will be free training. This will be available to all NSOs free of charge. And the link is there on the left. Thank you. Next slide, please. What are the costs? I've said that it's free to access, so NSOs can access this free of charge. However, there are some costs. Somebody has to pay for the backup infrastructure and the data provider costs. So currently this is funded via the big data community, if you like. So the UN pays some money, some NSOs are donating into it to keep this switched on. And there's always a seek for donors. So if any of you are listening or watching and think, yes, this is a really good product, we need to keep this running, then please think about donating. Thank you. Next slide, please. So how do you join this UN Global Platform? Well, isn't it? For access, you need to email support@officialstatistics.org, and the email address is there. There's also a Slack channel for this, a Slack site for this. So there's a link there if anyone is interested in joining this community. There's something here. I mean, the UN Global Platform is driven by the needs of the community. So if you want something on this platform, then please do think about asking for it. And also, if you have something to contribute, please do think about getting it onto the platform for sharing. And of course, just use that email address that's on the left there, the support@officialstatistics.org. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, we're going to look at where are these UN regional hubs and global hubs. There are 4 regional hubs. One of them is emerging and one is in transition. And we have 2 global hubs and one is emerging in transition. I'm going to start on the left. I'll start with the UN regional hubs. The first one on the left there is in Brazil, based at IBGE in Rio de Janeiro. Its region it serves is Latin America and the Caribbean. Across the bottom there, the UN regional hub for Africa is based in Kigali at the statistical office there. Its region is the whole of Africa. The UN regional hub in UAE is based at the FCSC in Dubai, and its remit, its region is Middle East and North Africa. I'm going to say a little bit here about China. So where you all are in Hangzhou, the UN, it's becoming a global center. It's emerging into a global center, which we'll talk about in a moment, but it was previously a regional hub. So it's in transition currently, with a new regional hub emerging in Indonesia at BPS. So the region for that is Asia and Pacific. There's also a global hub based in the Basque, it's at the Basque Center for Climate Change in Bilbao in Spain. It's the Aries for SEA sector hub. So we're going to take a little look at some of these regional hubs and global hubs on the next few slides. So next slide, please. Okay, what is a regional hub? Well, they each have a memorandum of understanding signed with the UN. But however, I mean, in general, this is what their objectives tend to be. They're there to focus on the region. They're looking at the big data science and data science needs of the region specifically. They can use the UN Global Platform. It provides a shared platform for collaborations and developments and training. So it's there at the hub of it all. But this regional hub can focus on the training and development needs of the region. It can host workshops, it can have webinars, it can have newsletters, etc., and focus on the priorities for that region. It can provide advice, consultancy, and a support role to NSOs. But it's about this shared knowledge exchange, collaboration across borders. It means that the region can focus on what's priority for them. So it is more than just getting access and use of the UN Global Platform in the region. Next slide, please. We're just going to look at some of the highlights from some of the regional hubs first. And the first one is Brazil, established in 2021, a very active regional hub in the Latin America and Caribbean region, working collaboratively with UN-CEBD, academia, and the Inter-American Development Bank. The NSO survey that it has conducted it's taken a wide look at what's already going on in the region and has a good grasp of what the priorities are for the region. It has organised workshops, research projects, and UN Big Data Hackathon. I mean, I'm going to say a little bit more here that's not on the slides. Brazil is very, very active. It is running a research project for big data for public statistics, and under that is many areas that it's looking into. But it's hosted so much around for the SDGs, big data and confidentiality and the quality of big data. It's targeting as much as it can the young statisticians in the region, which might include undergraduates and graduates, but also professors, in how to share information and collaborate. It's hosted numerous webinars, web scraping for CPI, satellite imagery for land use mapping, and currently running mobile phone data webinars for tourism. I mean, these are accessible to all, not just to the region as well. They broadcast this more widely so that others can tap into it. It has a dedicated website. There's a link there on the slides, and it's also providing support to regional NSOs that need it. So if they want direct support for example, web scraping of CPI, then they will support them. Okay, next slide, please. So highlights from Africa, from the Africa Hub. They're now well established. They have a steering committee in place. It's a collaboration with the UN Economic Commission for Africa and some NSOs in the region on their steering committee, making sure the priorities are being met. They are currently undertaking an NSO survey to understand the big data landscape for Africa, holding workshops with NSOs, understanding their maturity, their needs, their priorities, and that's ongoing. That's still happening. They have a governance structure in place for terms of reference. They've got a strategy, a work plan, and a communication plan, and all in process of getting this onto a dedicated website. They're developing a program of collaborative projects and webinars that support the regional priorities, and I'm going to take a deeper dive into one of those at the end of this if I have time. Okay, next slide, please. For UAE, still undertaking a few areas here, still getting established, but hosted the UN Big Data Road to Expo in January 2022. They've hosted the UN Big Data Hackathon regionally. They're now undertaking an NSO survey to understand the big data landscape and has developed already its website with a link there. Priorities is focusing on its youth and building big data capability. But we'll see more emerging from this hub as it establishes itself more. Thank you. Next slide, please. And here's the hub in transition, China, which is where you are now. They have already hosted, as a regional hub, 3 international big data webinars. They are the hosts of the conference that you're all at. currently in Hangzhou. They have developed expertise in the use of Earth observation data for agri-stats with academia, and they're developing insights on e-commerce. So this will now start morphing into a global hub. This was following a proposal to the UN Statistical Commission in March, which was approved. So this is now in transition phase. Thank you. Next slide, please. And Indonesia is the emerging hub for the Asia-Pacific region. Again, following that proposal to the UN Statistical Mission in March, which will see it start to provide something for the region. We will hear more about this in the coming months. I mean, it isn't launched yet officially, I don't think. Next slide, please. So in summary, the UN regional hubs, how are they strengthening the support? Well, they are there to focus on the priorities of the region, to strengthen what's required within the region, but they're also working together. These regional hubs are doing more. They are seeking synergies across the UN regional hubs. They're sharing their challenges, knowledge, expertise, and resources, and they are developing further what's available on the UN Global Platform. And we see this as a way of strengthening the global statistical system. Okay, next slide, please. Let's take a quick look at the global hubs and what are they? Well, these are a little bit different. So these specialize on one big data topic area and are there for global provision of support. They still use the UN Global Platform, of course, but they are there now to develop the global needs and provide advice consultancy in a global way on their specific topic of interest. Okay, next slide, please. The first one we're looking at is the UN Global Hub for Aries for SEA Sector Hub. It's artificial intelligence for environmental economic accounting. So it's a very specific topic. It's a collaboration of four areas there. As you can see, the US Geological Survey, the United Nations, the Donostia University, and the Basque Centre for Climate Change. And the last one there, the Basque Centre for Climate Change in Bilbao, that's the physical location of this hub. But they are there to expand this knowledge, to innovate, to seek technology that will provide better support for this specific topic. They help build capability. They work with the regional hubs to build skills in the regional areas. So I know this hub has worked with the Africa hub and has gone over to Kigali to run some workshops. Okay, next slide, please. So here we have it, the emerging global center in Hangzhou. It will focus itself on Earth observation for agriculture statistics and will continue to develop insights on e-commerce. And we'll hear more about this as this emerges in the coming months. Thank you. Next slide, please. Do I have time to go into this project? If that's okay, I can go through this really quickly. It's from the Africa Hub, the collaborative NSO project in web scraping prices for CPI. Next slide, please. So this was identified as a priority for Africa following workshops that were held by the regional hub. Launched its first NSO collaborative project in early 2023, and it was taken up by Ghana, NSOs of Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, Tunisia, and eventually Rwanda joined the programme. Seeking across the whole international network of experts on web scraping, 2 people came forward to support this programme. First was Luigi Palumbo from the Bank of Italy, a member of the UN task team on scanner data, and Dominik Dabrowski from Statistics Poland, who's on the UN task team on training, plus is part of an SNet web scraping project. So they brought their expertise in. Thank you. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The program was a combination virtual training over 4 weeks, so looking at concepts, ethics, Python coding, methodologies, and how to build a web scraper, and then hosted a 1 week face-to-face training at the training centre in Kigali. Fabulous outcomes from this collaboration. The usual, develop skills in Python and in building web scrapers. That's the usual you'd expect from a training program. But because they applied this to their individual projects as they were running through, participants got a really good grasp of methodological challenges and the ethical considerations when you start web scraping. They were able to discuss with each other and learned how web scraping was being used in other NSOs. So they've already started to think about how they could maybe do something for tourism and scraping job vacancies. They started to talk more about the strategic direction of the NSO, how would they get senior level buy-in and resources, and started considering even the requirements and maybe a roadmap towards implementation. So just by coming together into that 1 week face-to-face, it was incredible what the NSO started discussing. It was beyond what we thought would happen on this training course. And of course, with a project, you have the training and you immediately apply it to the project. This is the best way to learn that we've found. Next slide, please. Other outcomes, the NSOs that took part were all keen to collaborate further with each other when they left Kigali. They were keen to find other shared projects. They were keen to share their knowledge with others at their NSO. That was key. They wanted to go back to their NSO and teach Python coding skills. And also keen to share what they've done with other African NSOs, and we're developing a series of webinars for them to do that. So we're keen that the learning spreads out across their NSO, and we will go back in 6 months' time and do an impact evaluation, see how that's gone. Next slide, please. I'm sure it's the last slide. And here I'm going to leave you with this, in that Mr. Yusuf Marangwa, the DG at NISR, walked into this room while this training was taking place and was just overwhelmed. A pleasure to be hosting this first collaborative project here in Kigali. Did not know what to expect when I entered the room, but everyone was concentrating and collaborating, and it was so good to see. I'm so impressed and inspired, and this is only the start. I think that's it. Thank you. Open to any questions, although I think I've taken quite a lot of time. My apologies.